Hey everyone, Elizabeth from As I Lay Reading here. As you can see, I'm not in my usual environs, but I'm actually out here at a camping site to go to Tanglewood this weekend. And so Tanglewood is this, I guess it's sort of like the summer residence of the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and they come out to Western Massachusetts every summer to this really cool facility that's surrounded by big mountains and it's just this big field. And what's really cool about it is they have all these concerts that are outdoors, and you can get lawn tickets where you just kind of like lay around on the lawn and listen to the music. And people love bringing really elaborate picnics and with tablecloths and occasionally candelabra and all that sort of stuff. And so it's sort of fun to see what spreads everyone has and how fancy they can get. So usually we would only go like once or twice in the summer, and usually we just sort of drive out and drive back. But this time there were so many concerts that we wanted to see that we decided to camp here for a couple of days. So that's what I'm up to. And so tonight is Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1, which is that one. I don't know, like I'm a little bit scared of copyright, so I'm not going to put the actual piece in here, but you know, it's the one that starts with da 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 da. Oh, it's really off key. Okay. Da 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 da. You can look it up anyway. And there's kind of a cool story behind it too, that Tchaikovsky specifically wanted his friend Nikolai Rubinstein, who was a very popular Russian composer and piano player, to play it. And he refused to, and so Tchaikovsky had to play it himself. And because Rubinstein refused to play it, nobody else in Russia wanted to play it. So it actually premiered in Boston, not with the Boston Symphony Orchestra because it didn't exist yet, but in Boston. So in a way, this piece is returning home, and I'm gonna go see it. So I'm really excited about that. And I also wanted to talk about 4 books that I'm reading. It's like I couldn't choose, but I'll get to that later. I'll try to put in some footage of Tanglewood here and get to the books after that. So stay tuned. Hey everyone, so it's way past my bedtime. I just got back from the concert and I just wanted to report that it was really, really good. It was an all Tchaikovsky program and it was just hit after hit. I really thought that the concerto was absolutely, I would just say, perfect. I do have like a bit of a pet peeve that almost every classical music concert I go to gets a standing ovation. But this is one of the rare times I actually felt like it kind of deserved it. And one of the best parts, there was a surprise. I didn't see it on the program, but a ballerina and a male dancer came out on stage and actually did an absolutely wonderful pas de deux. And I could actually see them on stage live without looking at a screen or anything. I could see them right in front of me, and oh, it was beautiful. She was just melting in his arms. It was like it was gorgeous. It just makes me really inspired to see ballet in person. It looked really fantastic and different. It had a different energy when you can see just on a stage. You can see the context of how the dance is happening rather than just having the dancers in the middle all the time. And there's just this different energy. It's like completely electric. I feel that way kind of about live music too. And what I love about Tanglewood is just, it's the only time I can think of in my life that I've ever been able to listen to live classical music barefoot. You're you're hanging out on a on a picnic blanket, laying down, looking up at the stars, and just listening to wonderful, wonderful music. And I just loved it. And so I had a great time. It was short but great. And so tomorrow I think we're doing some bicycle riding, some swimming at the local pond that's here. But we might make it to another concert at 11 a.m. tomorrow. I'm not sure. So I'll try to keep, I guess it's turning kind of into like a vlog. I'll try to keep updating about what I'm up to this weekend. But so far, absolutely worth it. I just loved it. Hey everyone, it's me again, reporting back at my house. I've returned from camping. Uh, um, so things didn't go quite as we thought. We wanted to go to the Shaker Museum and that was closed. The concert we wanted to go to was a bit later than we anticipated, and I forget some other thing happened. Oh, the swimming hole wasn't any good, so we couldn't go swimming. So we decided to just come home a little early and get some rest. And I think that was a good choice. It was good to sleep in my own bed. I still had a really like fantastic time, and I think we're gonna go back for two more concerts later this summer, so that should be fun. And if you guys like seeing more Tanglewood footage, I can always take more Tanglewood footage. Um, and I also wanted to mention that I got back from camping. I was so tired. And I checked my mailbox, and there was this package from Kelly Leon's I think her YouTube channel is her name with a bunch of numbers. But we had been chatting about perfume, and she sent me those amazing, huge collection of perfume. There must be like 20 free samples of perfume in there, and I just asked for one. So Kelly, thank you. That was so amazing. It's such a cool treat to like come home to. It was like really well timed. So now I'm really looking forward to trying out all those different perfume samples. And that was like a really cool surprise gift to come home to. And that's just like one of the things I just love about YouTube. Everyone is just so nice here in our community. So that was super cool. And thanks again, Kelly. So I'll be trying those out for the next month or something, probably. And the last thing I wanted to remember to say before I start talking about the books that I'm reading is I've tried once again to make a website for myself. This one is what they call a micro blog. I'm calling it a public commonplace book, and it's just a place where I can put random photos that I've taken, or a lot of times they're just like little excerpts in what I'm reading, and I have nowhere. It's like not really that easy to share in such a short space on YouTube, so I can just post like little excerpts of things that I'm reading, interesting articles I saw. And so that'll be linked in the description and in my bio. And I've tried it out for a few weeks to make sure that it'll be easier to maintain than the little Notion website I had before. So you guys can check that out too. I think what's really cool about it is it has a newsletter element. So instead of having to check the website all the time, you can just sign up for the website on the website, and it'll email you when I update. So it'll just sort of say like Elizabeth said whatever. So you can sign up for that. Um, and finally, now to the to the four books I've picked up. So it's almost like I got too excited, and it was just hard for me to turn down any book that caught my attention, which means I'm working through individual books even more slowly than usual. So two of the books I'm really enjoying. Two of the books I'm finding, or one of the books I'm finding interesting. You guys, anyone who's been watching me for a while will find it pretty interesting that I'm reading that book. And then the last book I'm kind of like okay on. I'll give it more of a shot. So the first book I ended up reading, and I don't remember how I picked it up, but I've wanted to read it forever, is actually The Varieties of Religious Experience by William James. Yes, that William James the Pragmatist. I've never read any works of pragmatism, but it seems pretty interesting. So he was an American professor who gave a series of lectures, I think in Ireland, in 1903 or 1904, I don't quite remember, on literally the varieties of religious experience. So he He talks about the different ways that people have had visions or experienced personal sort of revelation. So it's not really about institutional religion. He seems to have a little bit of animosity towards that, but it's about sort of psychology and how we can explain these sort of deep and sort of ecstatic experiences that some people have. So I've read a couple of those lectures, and they were very popular when he gave them. But I haven't yet gotten to the meat of it. So there's like a lot of throat clearing, and I think I'm now on lecture 3 or 4, and he's still sort of talking in generalities, but I'm really, really curious about figures like Saint Teresa or other people he's going to talk about, and how he's going to connect that to psychology, and how he's going to end up explaining those kinds of experiences. So I think that's really cool. Another book I've ended up picking up, and I don't know how, is a new book. Go me, it's a new book. Ted Chiang's Exhalation, which is a collection of short stories. They're sci-fi short stories, and they're like everything I always feel like sci-fi should be. They're basically like extended thought experiments. But somehow, yes, it's not that the thought experiments are bad or anything like that. It's just that there's something about it where I feel like the writing is kind of flat, or I don't get involved enough in the thought experiments he presents. I've read the title story, and it's like, yes, this is everything it should be. This is what I want sci-fi to be. But somehow it's like in such a hurry to show you these cool showpieces or present these interesting ideas that it kind of feels like he's just going through the motions. It doesn't have enough interest in the story itself. And I would think that usually I wouldn't mind that. I mean, having a story just be an excuse for exploring an idea, I mean, usually I'd be totally behind that. But there's just something about it where it feels like it's trying really hard, or it's very self-aware, or I don't know. So I feel like I need to give it more of a chance. I think I need to read more of his stories. Maybe he gets into the groove. There's a lot of potential there, though. I really think that there's something there. It's just that there's also something missing, and I can't quite put my finger on what exactly that is. So I need to read more to kind of come to like more of an opinion. I've read like maybe 3 or 4 of the stories now. The third book I'm reading is a book I have always wanted to read and have actually never read, and that's Descartes' Meditations. So I read the Discourse on the Method in school, but I never read the Meditations, and I've always wanted to read it. There's just something so like refreshing about Descartes. It's like eating a little lemon candy or something. You just feel like you're awake. There's something so modern about him, so clear, so like us, I guess. There's something that feels like, yes, like you can kind of get on the same wavelength with Descartes. There's something so charming, and I don't know, like there's something I just like about the way that Descartes' mind works, and I think that's how a lot of people feel. And it's cool to get the opportunity to sort of watch ideas evolve rather than just the end result of the thinking. I should have explained the Meditations for anyone who doesn't know. It's not actually written as if it's Descartes speaking, but it's sort of a semi-fictionalized account of how we can think sort of more clearly philosophically. And so the thinker sort of has a number of meditations over the course of a few days. And so he kind of goes back and forth about ideas. He develops his ideas slowly. And it's, I don't know if people would call it semi-autobiographical, but it definitely reflects sort of the thinking process rather than just simply being a little treatise of what Descartes believes. And I believe that's the one where he does actually say, I think, therefore I am. It's the one where Descartes considers, what if everything around me has been produced by an evil demon that wants to trick me into thinking that this false artificial world is real, and he works through it and he comes up with the idea of I think, therefore I am. So I know for a fact that I'm real, even if everything around me is not real. And then from there, he kind of provides a proof or multiple proofs of the existence of God. And then it kind of goes from there. And so I'm really excited about reading this one. This is the one I just started. So I've read the least of, and I'm still working through like a couple of really long introductions. So I haven't gotten to Descartes' actual words. But I read some long excerpts, and I remember how much I loved reading the Discourse on the Method, and I feel like I should get back to that because I just love Descartes' writing style. There's just something so light and just perfect about. I just love the way he thinks. He's just refreshing. And then the last book I've taken up recently is actually Middlemarch by George Eliot. Anyone who has been following me for a while, I think, would probably be surprised by that because I've read exactly one other George Eliot book, and that was Adam Bede, which I kind of loathed. But I always thought Adam Bede was her first novel. People really love Middlemarch, and I wasn't willing to sort of give up on her. And I'm not very deep into it yet, but you can see instantly how much she's matured as a writer. She has a little bit more insight, I feel, and a little bit more critical distance from her characters. And so I've been introduced to Dorothea, who is precocious, feels a little bit condescending, but essentially a precocious young woman who she's very religious, and she's sort of trying to be an ascetic, not an ascetic, she's sort of trying to be an uprightly moral person, and she's sort of I think George Eliot wants us to think of it as what happens to women who are great souled, so they're not given any opportunity to express the greatness that's inside of them, and so they kind of have to express it through these sort of like meager, sort of inferior like avenues, like being super religious or trying to do things in their like in the small confines of their sort of social world, and that frustration sort of makes them into these sort of eccentric, or I don't want to say inferior, but sort of these eccentric, not very well adjusted people. And so I think Dorothea is supposed to be one of those. Like she has a great soul, but she's sort of put into a small world. But for me, actually, and I know I'm supposed to be sort of rooting for her, like, she doesn't know what she's doing, but she's so well intentioned. She wants to be a good person. But this is where I never get along with George Eliot. For me, what I see in Dorothea is someone who's very much like George Eliot, like kind of thinks she's superior to everyone. And I think the only thing, what I mean about George Eliot having a little bit more distance than in Adam Bede, is that George Eliot is indeed criticizing that type of attitude in a way, or at least that's how I see it. So Dorothea is very sort of holier than thou. She wants to be a perfect person, or she wants to at least be a highly moral person, and that leads her to be sort of very condescending to the people around her. She sort of thinks she's a little bit superior, particularly to her sister. She sort of bullies her sister accidentally, but she is sort of somewhat of a tyrant to her sister. And there is something kind of childish, ironically, about thinking you're so superior. And it seems to me that it's going to lead her to make a huge mistake and marry an extremely ill-fitted man. Because when reasonable people try to warn her, her uncle who she lives with and her sister and so on, she doesn't really listen to anyone else because she's so convinced of her own sort of view of the world. And I don't think that's what Eliot is trying mostly to show. I think Eliot's mostly trying to show her as this great souled person who's sort of imprisoned in the confines of the acceptable social roles that women had at the time. But for me, I mostly see it as the folly of sort of being precocious, or the folly of being so sure of your own superiority. And I think it's sort of funny because that's kind of how I see George Eliot herself. She's always proving a point, always teaching us. I realized that when I was reading it, she still has that in Middlemarch, I think, a bit, but she's toned it down a lot, and I can handle it. And she has some good one-liners, and I think the character of Dorothea is a little bit of a reflection on that type of person that I think maybe Eliot had a strong affinity towards, but she has enough distance to see how this is also even if it's sympathetic, she's trying to be a good person. It can also, it's also a huge flaw. It makes Dorothea completely blind to the reality that's around her. But I realized when I was reading it, I kept thinking, like, why does it remind me? And then I remembered it reminded me of, if you've ever read Alice in Wonderland, or maybe it's Through the Looking Glass, but there's this Duchess. I think it was there's this duchess who keeps sneezing from pepper, and there's like a pig or something that is like a baby. I don't quite remember, but it's in one of these like sort of surreal episodes. And once the Duchess stops sneezing and stuff, she keeps digging. And I remember the line was something like she keeps digging her sharp little chin into Alice's shoulder. And she would dig her sharp little chin annoyingly into her shoulder and repeat a little proverb for Alice. And then Alice thinks something like, gosh, she really loves to repeat proverbs all the time. And Alice is really irritated by her sort of breathing down her neck, repeating these proverbs. That's kind of still how I feel a little bit about George Eliot, though I feel much, much, much better about Middlemarch so far than I did about Adam Bede, and I'll just have to see where it goes. I'm still in the very early stages of Middlemarch and of all the books that I'm looking at. So I'm excited to read them. Um, I did write here, yeah, like again, just like Adam Bede, Middlemarch again has a really interesting premise in which she allows a female character to be more than just beautiful and actually have some thoughts about things other than just marriage. But again, I find the character I just put kind of hateable. Even as it's obvious we're supposed to sympathize with her or find her innocent efforts at morality at least endearing, but her tyrannical attitude towards her sister, it just it cuts out all sympathy from me. I think because I've sort of known people like this who sort of they never say anything aloud, but sort of implicitly they're always judging the people around them because they think that their particular way is the superior one. So I still have like sort of a weird relationship with George Eliot, but I'm liking this one. I think I'll finish it for sure. And I'm really interested. I think right now I'm most enjoying the Descartes and the varieties of religious experience. And I'm hoping that I'll come around to Ted Chiang and to Middlemarch. And it's really hard not to just, after so long not reading, it's really hard not to just take on every single book that I see around me. But I think four is my max. I think it's going to take me really long to even finish even one of these books because I'm sort of jumping around in too many places. So that's where I am in my reading. That's where I am in my camping. I hope you guys enjoyed coming along with me to Western Massachusetts. I also meant to mention when I was describing what Western Massachusetts is that that's actually where Edith Wharton's house is, because that's where all the sort of New York society, high society, have summered since, 100, 200 years ago or whatever. And so Edith Wharton's house is actually there. I visited it. I've visited it a couple of times, and what's really cool about Edith Wharton's house is none of the furniture is original, but it's all period appropriate. So you just kind of walk around her house, and you're allowed to sort of lounge on the sofa and just walk all around the mansion, and you're allowed to go out on the balcony and have a sandwich. And so it really feels like you're being entertained by Edith Wharton, who's just sort of in the other room. And what's also really cool about it is she had a hand in designing the whole thing. So she had a whole vision for how she wanted it designed. And it's very sort of kitschy and cute. There's a dog. She loved her little dogs, and so there's a little. It has these extensive grounds, and there's a dog cemetery there with little miniature tombstones for all her little lap dogs that died. And so there's a lot of personality in the Edith Wharton mansion. So that's always fun too. So there are a lot of cool things out in Western Massachusetts, and I had a fun time there. So anyway, that's all. That's my reading, and I hope to update you guys again soon about what I've been reading and what I'm up to. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.